Alright, hello everyone and welcome to my short, informal video guide on talking about Zyra builds in the mid lane in patch 5.24. So basically the reason I made this guide is that pretty much every Zyra player I know builds differently. They play differently, they build differently, but there's so many different builds that you can use for Zyra right now. I figure talk about them and talk about the merits and benefits of each, when you would go this build over this other build, etc. Okay, so we're gonna begin with this basically, this overpowered build right now in 5.24 with Frost Queen's Claim. It's probably gonna get fixed pretty soon, but as of now, what you can do is you can get an early Frost Queen's Claim in lane, which provides great mana sustain. The utility is really nice as well, and you get some CDR. So what you're gonna do for this is you're gonna go a Fiendish Codex early. You might need double Doran's rings, depending on how tough the lane is, and then you upgrade to Frost Queen's Claim when you can. And the reason people get this is because you get a great amount of gold generation, you get some CDR, the active, I said it before, and the mana regen as well. And once you have the fully upgraded Frost Queen's Claim, the gold generation is not disabled by killing minions anymore. So it's really, really good, cost efficient, great item. And then of course, you go your typical Zyra build after that. So Sork Shoes and Rylai's, and then Liandry's or Void Staff next, depending on team comps. You want to go Liandry's if they have low MR, high amounts of health. You want to go Void Staff if they have high amounts of MR. And lastly, some situational item, usually Rabadon's Death Cap, or we'll get to other situational items at the end. Then we also have, next we have the traditional penetration Zyra build. Okay, so this is the build that people have been doing for a really long time. Penetration's great early, great on Zyra. And then you go double Doran's for mana sustain. With the changes in preseason 6 to Zyra's base mana, getting mana regen that helps, like this, for example, Doran's Ring gives 50% base mana regen. That is even more mana regen with Zyra base mana regen changes. So double Doran's Ring is enough sustain for your mana, and then you just get early Sork Boots and Haunting Guys, giving you a lot of penetration early on, and you can do a lot of damage. From there, again, traditional Zyra, you can get Rylai's, Void Staff, and Liandry's, depending on the order. And then maybe a Death Cap and a Luden's Echo to finish it off. Probably get Luden's Echo before Death Cap. Luden's Echo is another situational item which we can talk about later. Then some other people go a more traditional AP mid laner build where you get, Morellonomicon for the CDR and the sustain, and then you might go either Pen or you might just get Boots and Rylai's next, and then finishing the Laundries and Void Staff. Again, it depends, how I said before. And last is your situational items, sometimes Death Cap, sometimes other stuff. And then a recent development that I've noticed from Froggen's stream when he plays Brand, and again, Brand and Zyra are very similar champions. They got great all-in, AoE mages, they both really benefit from penetration and Rylai's. But despite that, what he has been doing is, since Rod of Ages got a really big buff in the preseason 6, so what he's been doing is getting an early Rod of Ages. This takes care of all your mana issues, gives you a lot of health, and at max stat, first off, when you buy it, it's 80 ability power. That's the same as Morellonomicon, okay? That's really good. And later on, it's going to go up to 120 ability power, which is insane. Very, very cost-efficient item. Gives you great stats. And then he goes CDR Boots to help with your sustain damage, getting more skills up in team fights, getting faster regeneration on your W, etc. And then again, finish it like a typical Zyra build. Early Rylai's is something I love a lot. You don't really need the early Liandry's because you're not stacking penetration anyway, so you can get Liandry's or Void Staff depending on the enemy team comp again, and finishing off with the situational item. So lastly, just some situational items that people get in different situations. Zanya's Hourglass. People get that a lot, not only for the armor, but also for the active. So sometimes what you're gonna see a lot is people who will get a very early Seeker's Armguard, which you can't actually see on the video, but Seeker's Armguard will give you ability power and armor when you stack it up. So just get an early Seeker's Armguard against maybe a lane like Yasuo or Zed maybe. And you don't have to finish the item if you don't feel like you need the active, because it's a very expensive, not very cost efficient item, but if you need the active, finish it. And this can be a substitute for one of your early items, and it'll take the place of Death Cap most of the time. Another good situational item is Abyssal Scepter. So Abyssal Scepter is better when the enemy team or when your team has multiple AP threats, because it lowers everyone's magic resist, which helps other AP players on your team, and it also gives you magic resist, which helps against enemy AP players. That being said, most of Zyra's abilities are outside of the range of the magic shred, so she doesn't make full use of it all the time. That being said, if you're up against like a LeBlanc or something, if you need to survive, you need to survive. So then go Abyssal Scepter in such a situation like that. If sometimes the health from like Rod of Ages or Rylai's will help you survive a LeBlanc, but sometimes it won't. So if you need an Abyssal Scepter, it can definitely be a solid thing to do. Luden's Echo I'm going to also put here. I like getting Luden's Echo mid-game. The mobility really helps, and it really helps with your poke and burst as well. Some people like to get Luden's Echo first, which is another build that I didn't put here, but it's pretty much the same, just reordering certain things. In early Luden's Echo, the movement speed is really huge for Zyra, one of the most immobile champions in the game. And the damage is not too bad either, but you don't really get it for the damage, you mostly get it for the movement speed and the poke. And then Banshees, I can't tell you how often I've gotten Banshees against really hard lanes. Well, I don't get it in lane, but I can get it maybe 4th or 5th in my items. Once I have my core of Void Staff, Leandries, and Rylai's, getting a Banshees Veil after that, there's no shame in that. If your team lacks damage, you might not want to do it. But if you have plenty of damage and just need to survive, Banshees can be a really solid thing, especially against assassins like LeBlanc or some other ones that I can't think of off the top of my head. And another alternative against a rough AP lane, instead of getting Abyssal, say you're the only AP threat and you're only against one AP threat, Athene's Unholy Grail is not a bad item either. It can help you survive lane, gives great mana regen, the CDR is nice as well. It's not my favorite item, but it's an option. Alright, so I thought, I wanted to make this video to talk some more about Zyra builds, because there's a lot of different things you can do. The current build that I've been doing most often is this Frog and Brand build with Rod of Ages. I think Rod of Ages is really strong, and I don't rush penetration anymore. But any of these builds are solid, and feel free to let me know if you have any questions or comments in the video or in the comments below. I like to hear other people's thoughts. I like to hear other people's opinions, and maybe you'll teach me a thing or two. Anyway, thanks for watching, and have a good day.